Hello, and welcome to our first training session of the Body Transformation System program. Shall we get started right away?
Thank you, Fiona. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so today, what are we going to cover? Well, we're going to be talking about the science of insulin and how it has an effect. When it comes to weight management. We'll talk about nutrition and more specifically carbs, and how snacking and low GI foods can really help when it comes to insulin management. We'll talk about cardio specifically when it comes to exercise. Then we'll move on to mindset and go specifically into satiety and hunger signals. And last but not least, we will focus on one product from the Body Transformation System, and that product will be Curb as well as white kidney beans.
Yes, indeed. Yep.
Now, let's move on with this, Steve.
Yeah, thank you very much, Fiona. We're going to start today. The first main section is the science of insulin and weight management, and how insulin can affect your weight management journey and any kind of weight management program. So, firstly, insulin is a hormone made by the pancreas that allows your body, to use the food that you eat for both energy, and also insulin is used to store it for future use. So, insulin regulates blood sugar levels from getting too high or too low, but it also plays a role in blood sugar levels, and it plays a role in fat storage. And that's something that I personally didn't know at the start of the program. So, blood sugar refers to sugar that is transported through the bloodstream to supply energy to your cells in our bodies. This sugar comes from the food that we eat. The human body regulates blood sugar levels with insulin. So we make sure the body makes sure that blood sugar levels are not too high, not too low. However, when you eat sugar, you produce insulin. So if you take a look at this chart, after you eat food, your blood sugar level spikes. It rises, and when this happens, the cells in your pancreas are signaled to produce insulin, and that gets released into your bloodstream. So insulin then attaches to your body cells and pulls sugar into them, and that sugar is used by the cells for energy. So as you can see, glucose goes up and insulin follows it at a slightly later time. So if you have more sugar in your body than is needed, insulin helps to store that sugar as fat, extra energy. Therefore, there's two items to remember here. First, when you eat a sugary food, your body produces insulin. That turns the sugar into energy. Secondly, when your body has used up the energy it needs, it stores the excess sugar as fat. And that is our body's energy storage system. So, as long as you have insulin in your body or in your bloodstream, you never use fat stores for energy. Remember, insulin looks for sugar for energy. It will continue to scavenge for energy until it is depleted. So once insulin is out of your system, out of your bloodstream, you start to burn fat. But until the insulin is gone, your body cannot start using fat for energy. And that's what we call the fat burning mode. So fat burning starts when there's no more insulin in the bloodstream. So to achieve your transformation by balancing blood sugar and insulin levels. So as your blood sugar and insulin levels remain balanced, your body will have the opportunity to get into the fat burning zone more often. Now, in essence, you'll be changing your body from a fat storage machine into a fat burning machine. And that's the essence of today's training. Our aim and the aim of this system is to get us into that fat burning zone. We've gone through the science of how the body balances sugar intake with insulin and how that affects the fat burning mode. So the next question is, how can we positively influence this natural process and positive changes to our diet and lifestyles? So Fiona, if you'd like to explain.
Yep. So we hope that the essential information that Steve has just taken you through is clear in your heads, so that you can better understand the reasoning behind the lifestyle changes that we suggest that you make as part of the Body Transformation System program. So let's dive straight away into nutrition and the influence it can have on insulin. So there are three big concepts that we recommend that you follow on our BTS program to help you to manage your insulin levels. The 4-4-12 eating pattern, which we'll take you through in a minute, the low GI eating, and reduced snacking. So we'll cover all three of these during this training and education. So as a reminder, because we have already shared this with you in the user guide and in our kickoff video, the 4-4-12 basically means waiting at least 4 hours between breakfast and lunch, at least 4 hours between lunch and dinner, and at least 12 hours between dinner and breakfast. So there's a 12-hour fasting window between your dinner, your last meal of the day, and your first meal of the day the next morning. And the importance here is no snacking. Again, we want to insist that this should fit into your current lifestyle. So it could be 5 hours, 6 hours. It doesn't have to stay at 4. The important thing is that you leave enough time in between the meals. Why? Because when you leave enough time between those meals, you're going to be reaching that fat burning zone. So be sure to wait at least 4 or at least 12 hours between those meals. Now, let's take a look at a normal eating pattern, so not the 4-4-12. If we eat a breakfast that contains carbs and or sugar, it makes our blood sugar levels go up, and therefore our insulin levels will go up too. Insulin will push that sugar, that energy, into the cells for energy to convert it into fat if it's in excess. Then you snack. Say, for instance, you'll snack between breakfast and lunch. That happens quite often on a normal eating pattern. Or you don't leave enough time between breakfast and lunch. So say you leave a couple of hours only in between breakfast and lunch. Then your insulin levels are going to spike again. And they're not going to have time to go back down. They're just going to go back up again, which means that you're not going to be leaving enough time in between those two meals or between your breakfast and your snack, for instance, for those insulin levels to completely be depleted and to reach that fat burning zone where there is no insulin left in your body. So if you take that example and stretch it out, so you take it and stretch it out to a full day, then you can see that the insulin levels are practically always above and high and spiking. So for instance, you have breakfast, you have lunch, you have a snack, you have lunch, you have a snack, you have a dinner, you have a snack, and then you have you go to sleep. Well, you can see that each time that you've had that little bit of a snack in between breakfast and lunch, etc., your insulin levels have peaked again, which means your body never has a chance to use fat stored as energy, which means it's kept in a perpetual status of being a fat storing machine. Now, let's look at the difference between this normal eating pattern and doing the 4-4-12 eating pattern. Again, you eat breakfast, it contains carbs or sugar, it makes your blood sugar levels go up, and therefore your insulin levels go up too. That's not going to change. Insulin will push that sugar into the cells for energy and convert it into fat. But if we leave enough time between that breakfast and the next meal, so at least 4 hours, then the insulin levels will have time to go down, be depleted, giving your body enough time to start tapping into those fat stores for energy. So by eating 3 meals a day and following 4-4-12 in terms of the time you leave in between those 2 meals, you'll find that you'll be able to get rid of your body of insulin and to fat into your fat stores a lot faster. So you'll turn your body into a fat burning machine, which is, of course, the aim. A few other benefits from doing the 4-4-12 eating pattern. Well, it will support stable blood sugar levels like we just saw. It will encourage fat burning. It will also help you to promote digestive rest. So it gives you a little bit of time for your digestive system to get back into shape. It helps you to reduce your snacking and overeating, and it will enhance your weight management and improve energy. So we talked about 4-4-12. Now let's look at low glycemic eating. What is the glycemic index? As you may or may not know, different foods will have different levels of impact on our blood sugar and insulin levels. The glycemic index is a system that ranks food on a scale of 1 to 100 based on how quickly that food will affect your blood sugar levels. So it will be affected by the size, the texture, the viscosity, the structure, and the ripeness of a food. So there are many different elements that will impact how a food will impact your glycemic your insulin levels. But what is important to know is that we are aiming for the low glycemic index food, which is considered a 55. And if you go to a medium glycemic index food, it would be 56 to 69, and high glycemic index is 70 and above. And obviously, we will be aiming to go for the low GI foods more often.
Yeah.
So today, we're also going to focus more specifically on carbs. So mostly, why are we focusing on carbs today? Because they are mostly composed of sugar, glucose. This includes grains, vegetables, and fruit. It could be potatoes, broccoli, pasta, or even kiwis, but not all carbs are created equal. We recommend concentrating on healthy carbs, and more specifically, low GI carbs, that are going to be also rich in fiber. High fiber content will tend to slow down your digestion and so slow down the absorption of glucose as well as promote your fullness. So you will tend to have less of them. So we also prefer to choose high nutrient density carbs because they are also full of vitamins and minerals like whole wheat pasta, broccoli, or kiwis, because these, yes, they will have less effect on your on your glucose levels, but it will also be beneficial for all-round health. So remember this, the more complex the carb is, the less impact it will have on your glucose and insulin levels, and the better it will be for your health.
Yeah.
So let's have a look at a few examples of carbs. So if you take a food like a mashed potato, you might think that it's going to be a low glycemic index carb, but actually the way that the potatoes have been prepared, the fact that they have been changed in terms of their structure, the way that you tend to eat more because it's easier to eat, less need for mastication, you will tend to make it easier to digest. And so by making it easier to digest, you will tend to have your insulin levels that will spike. So mashed potatoes are going to be a higher glycemic index. If you take quinoa, on the other hand, it's or for instance, wild rice or something like that, it will cause a much gentler rise in blood sugar. It contains high levels of fiber and protein, and it takes longer to digest, and it makes it a low GI food. So if you consume only the proper amounts of low glycemic carbs, your body will be fed a slow, consistent stream of sugars, which it will use throughout the next few hours without having extra spilling over into fat cells, which will leave your body in what we have talked about as being the fat burning zone.
Indeed.
Don't worry, we don't expect you to remember all of the different types of carbs and which ones are going to have an impact on your glucose levels. You can find the GI food charts in your recipe book. So make sure you go there and find all of these different food per category. How about quantities? Well, of course, even if you choose healthy carbs or even unhealthy carbs, the more you eat, the more your glucose levels are going to be soaring. So what we want to do is not focus on quantity, but be careful of your quantity. But what we want to do is focus on quality, as we've seen, high fiber, high nutrient density, and listening, of course, to your body and listening to when you're feeling full. So what have we covered? We've covered the 4-4-12 eating pattern. We've talked about glycemic index and looked more specifically at carbs. So as a quick reminder, these are the different things that are going to have an impact on your insulin levels in terms of nutrition.
Yeah.
So
thank you, Fiona.
About exercise.
It is all about exercise. Now, as we know, 80% of the effort we put in and my management is to do with what we eat. 20% is exercise. Now, what's the best way to maximize that 20%? Well, that's what I want to talk about now. Exercise and insulin sensitivity, how they're interlinked and what you can do and what we recommend as part of the body transformation system in regards to exercise. So we propose and we suggest, and I've been doing minimum 30 minutes 5 times a week. Now, we're not saying it has to be a certain type of exercise. We're just saying it needs to be exercise. It could be walking, strength training, cycling, high intensity interval training, running, cardio, etc. The thing is, it's consistency. It's the 5 times a week for 30 minutes, being consistent, and that's the bare minimum that we want you to do. If you already exercise, great, keep going. You can increase the amount of exercise, change the exercise up, but this is really aimed at people who are not doing or not meeting that minimum requirement. So, a bit of science, a bit of background about why we're talking about exercise. Well, we know that exercise is a key to good health. It's obvious. You've probably heard that it has many health benefits, including blood pressure, reduces blood pressure, obviously reduces body weight, but it also helps you lower your blood glucose levels. It does this by essentially lowering your blood glucose by making your body more sensitive to insulin. In fact, the effect upon exercise on your insulin sensitivity can last up to 24 hours or more after you work out. So in the short term, exercise increases blood flow to the muscles, helping them absorb more glucose without needing to rely on insulin to do that. And over the long term, consistent exercise enhances muscle insulin sensitivity. Now, that basically means that they can better absorb glucose from the bloodstream. Now, this change can last for days after workout, so it's very important. So, another thing is that we've often seen that less sugar in your bloodstream, the less insulin, the quicker you'll get into that fat burning mode. So, the combination of less intake of sugar and exercise will mean that you've got less blood sugar. So, less blood sugar equals less insulin, means that you're going to get to that fat burning mode quicker and also more efficiently. So, exercise, insulin, and weight management. People who are more physically active have more muscle mass, and that means they can tolerate a lot more carbs than people who are sedentary. So it's a win-win situation. If you have more muscle, you burn more carbs because of your basal muscle rate. So, in regards to cardio, that's what we're focusing on today. We want to, initially talk to you about cardio and how you can increase or meet that minimum 5 times a week for 30 minutes of cardio. So, a moderate activity would be brisk walking. It could be water aerobics, dancing, tennis, even just pushing a lawnmower. So, if you're not very active, it could literally be walking. Instead of taking the car to the shops to get, some milk, you could walk. It could be as simple as that. So minimum 30 minutes, 5 times a week. If you're already quite active and you're already exercising, or you want to in the future push yourself a bit more vigorously, there's obviously many forms of exercise we would recommend: running, swimming, skipping. There's all kinds of different activities that you can do. I mean, the main thing is it's consistency and find an activity that you enjoy. It's more important to be consistent than it is to push yourself too much. So if you're into intermediate level, again, pick the exercise that suits you and you enjoy. So this approach is about creating a harmonious balance between what you eat and how you move, okay? Ensuring that each aspect supports the other. So low GI plus cardio exercise will support insulin sensitivity. The 4-4-12 eating pattern plus low GI food choices plus exercise will help you become a fat burning machine. Now I'm just going to hand over to Fiona now to talk more about mindset and hunger.
Thank you. So we talked about what you should be changing in terms of your food and activity levels, but we all know that when it comes to dieting or changing your habits, it's also a question of psychology and mindset and listening to yourself. So let's take a look at the science of hunger a little bit closer. So hunger and satiety are regulated by a complex network of hormones and neurotransmitters that interact with the central nervous system. Now, this network is responsible for signaling to your brain when you're hungry, what foods you should eat, and when you're full. Those signals are a vital part of determining how much you should be eating. So hunger happens when your body needs food. It reminds us to eat. The signal might be stomach growling. It might even be when you're very hungry, feeling weak, dizzy, or irritable. Satiety, on the other hand, is also considered called fullness, is the relief we feel when hunger goes away. So it's more at the end of your meal. The signal that you get is food maybe not tasting as good as it was when you had that first mouthful, and when it can be really when you've eaten too much, so it's not really fullness anymore, it's over fullness. It's a feeling of really a tightness in the stomach. But it can be easier said than done. Indeed, when we are not mindful of what we eat and we just focus on counting quantities of food and calories, we don't listen to our body or the signals that they are sending. So here are a few tips that, let's go back here. So let's have a look at some of the tips that you can put together to try and listen a little bit more to your hunger and satiety signals. One tip is to keep tracking your hunger levels, and so to rank your hunger. This will be a first step in seeing if you're really starving, or so a 10, or if you're just fancying a snack, maybe that's a 1. You could ask yourself also, why am I eating? Be honest with yourself in your answer. Is it because you're bored or you're stressed? Are you tired? There could be many other reasons that you're actually that you're hungry.
Yeah.
It might just be an emotional reaction. So try to decipher which one it is. Next, have a plan ready to distract yourself when you're not really hungry. So you realize you're not hungry. Now what? Make sure that you have in mind something that you can do when you get to that timing. It could be going for a walk, calling a friend, or any other activity that takes your mind off food. And finally, and of course, Steve has already explained some of the other health benefits included with exercise. It helps regulate your stress and emotions. So not just health-wise, but also in your psychologically, it can help regulate stress and emotions and increase your mood, which in turn means you might be less inclined to eat emotionally. But sometimes, even with the best efforts and plannings, your craving just take the better of you, and you can't do anything but want to snack. So what do you do then?
Well, that's where help in the form of food supplementation and Curb comes into effect. Now, Curb is a fantastic new product. Basically, to summarize, Curb helps control your appetite by reducing snacking between meals. It minimizes hunger cravings, and it helps you to eat smaller portion sizes. So if you're someone, I'm going to be honest, if you're someone like me who struggles with cravings and snacking, Curb is ideally suited to help you with those snacking cravings. Now, it's not just about snacking and controlling hunger. Curb is much more than that. It also helps to support your natural GLP-1 production. Now, GLP-1 is a hormone that helps regulate blood sugar levels, and it helps to GLP-1 supports appetite and helps to curb your cravings. So if you've got better GLP-1 production and supporting that, it's going to help to decrease your appetite and curb those cravings in another way. Curb also supports normal blood sugar levels, helping you to reach that fat burning zone much quicker. Now, it's got chromium in there, which helps to support normal blood sugar levels. Last but not least, it's helping to colonize more lean gut bacteria. That's Akkermansia. Now, Curb has an ingredient in there, potato starch, which supports healthy, lean gut bacteria promotion and growth in the gut. So it's Curb, in summary, it's not just a short-term weight management option. It's really supporting both intermediate and long-term weight management by altering this gut microbiome. It's not just about hunger cravings. Talking about the science of hunger and how Curb can support the science of hunger. Well, it does this in 4 different ways. It has fiber and it supports nutrient absorption. It supports GLP-1 and hunger signals, blood sugar and insulin control for fat burning, And finally, supports lean gut bacteria for long-term results. So the science of hunger. Initially, Curb has an immediate physical satiety benefit, supporting decreased appetite and decreased in occasional cravings. Secondly, after 30 days, your GLP-1 induction or support will be increased. That helps to promote normal blood sugar levels in healthy individuals. And finally, after 90 days, your microbiome is going to be adjusted. Now, Curb supports healthy population of Akkermansia in the gut, and a diverse microbiome populated with Akkermansia bacteria may be key to healthy weight management. So let's talk about the immediate benefits. The first ingredient is glucomannan. That's a natural water-soluble dietary fibre that absorbs water, expands in the stomach, and therefore slows down nutrient absorption and also promotes feelings of fullness, and that helps to limit snacking and curb hunger. It also has chromium. Now, chromium is very important as it supports healthy blood sugar levels, which helps to limit insulin in the blood and allow for fat burning to start. So as you can see from the graph here, if you take Curb 30 minutes before a meal or as replacing a snack, it's going to help you prevent you going to that fat, but prevent insulin to support you going to that fat burning zone. Okay, so
if I understand correctly, Steve, what you're saying is that by taking Curb, you're not going to be taking a snack.
Exactly.
Or you're going to be reducing the amount of carbs that you're going to be maybe eating in that meal, which means that your insulin levels are going to be going less high or for a less amount of time, which means that you're going to be reaching that fat burning zone.
Exactly.
Okay. Good to know.
The intermediate benefits after 30 days, though, this is where it gets really interesting. We have an ingredient in there called lemon bioflavonoids. Now, lemon bioflavonoids have been shown by science to encourage the natural production of GLP-1. Now, GLP-1, as we said a minute ago, signals to your brain that you're full. It tells your pancreas to produce insulin and slows down the emptying of your stomach. So if you can support naturally GLP-1 levels, it's going to help you, it's going to help you feel fuller. It's going to tell your pancreas to produce insulin much more efficiently, and it's going to slow down the emptying of your stomach, which again slows down digestion and stops those insulin and blood sugar spikes.
So if I understand correctly, in the first step, immediately you're going to be feeling full because your stomach is
full. You've got that
full.
expansion, yes.
But in this case, it means that after 30 days, you're actually generally going to be feeling less hungry.
Exactly. Your GLP-1 have been supported. And after 90 days, the last benefit really starts kicking in, and it's all three benefits work better. But so to help reduce your appetite and play a role in normal blood sugar regulation, Curb and GLP-1, as you just explained, reduces snacking between meals. It minimizes hunger cravings and helps you to eat smaller portion sizes. Exactly as you said, you're going to go into that fat burning zone much quicker, more efficiently. Excellent. So long-term benefits. Now, as we said a minute ago, potato starch, it supports the growth of bifidobacterium and Akkermansia in the GI tract. Now, Akkermansia is just really starting to be researched fully, and it's been found to be more abundant in leaner body types. So that, and also Akkermansia and a more diverse microbiome helps to regulate glucose. Akkermansia also is involved in fat storage and metabolism. So if you've got a improved microbiome with more Akkermansia, or Akkermansia being more prevalent, that's going to help you. That's going to help to promote a lean body microbiome, and that could be the key to healthy and long-term weight management. So, Curb, how do you take it? Well, it's 1 sachet today per day. You mix in 250 ml of water and you drink immediately. And as Fiona said, you can use it as a snack between meals or just before your main meal to ensure you don't overeat. We also need to talk about white kidney bean. Now, white kidney bean is part of the Assist collection, and it offers you a caffeine-free. The Assist collection itself offers a caffeine-free body transformation experience. Now, we're talking about white kidney bean today because it really does help managing carbohydrate intake when we talk about carbohydrates. So, white kidney bean provides an easy and convenient way to support a healthy meal plan. It's a concentrated source of white kidney bean extract, and it really can help metabolize those carbs that you're going to have in your main meal and probably in your other meals as well. So main thing about white kidney bean is take it with your main meal. So it's 3 capsules a day, once a day, and you take it with your main meal, especially if that main meal has carbohydrates in.
Yeah, so if you eat a lot of carbs at breakfast, it might be for breakfast that you have those.
Absolutely, yeah.
But if it's more an evening meal that you might be having a big portion like a lasagna maybe, then that's when you might be taking those.
I think, yeah, change. I think with white kidney bean, you can change when you take it, depending on the meal type.
That you're going to have.
Especially if you're planning your meals, you might have might be able to plan in advance.
Okay, so thank you, Steve. So what have we seen today, everyone? Well, we've seen today that we have put together nutritionally, you have the 4-4-12 and how it has an effect on your fat burning zone and your insulin levels. We've looked at low glycemic eating and how eating low GI type foods will impact your insulin less, which means that you will again have less be able to get your insulin depleted quicker and be able to get you into that fat burning zone again. And then we've talked about exercise and how by including 5 times 30 minutes of exercise is going to help with your insulin sensitivity and again help with then your insulin levels going down, again reaching that fat burning zone. We talked very briefly about hunger signals and how by listening to those hunger signals, you will probably stop eating a little bit faster, again, having that effect on the amount of sugar going into your bloodstream. And we finally talked about curb and white kidney bean and curb more specifically, how it will impact your blood sugar levels and also your hunger signals. And finally, when we put those all together, that's one of the strategies that we included in our body transformation system. By doing all of these things, you will be helping with fat burning, and you will be managing your insulin levels for body transformation system. So we hope that you really enjoyed today's training, today's education video. What can you expect on the next one? Well, we'll be talking about fat. We'll be going into the science behind fat and all the different elements that can have an impact on your fat. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.